Welcome to the show, Nityanand.
Happy to be here. Namaste. Mehan, not Mohan, Mehan. Sanskrit, Mehan means. And if you look these names up on the internet, if I live long enough and if the circumstances are favorable, then maybe an online resource with 1 million Sanskrit names. That's the goal.
Aryan, Shanaya, Kiara, Akira. You would have heard these names in our popular culture. A lot of people have taken these new age, cool, metropolitan, urban, sophisticated names. Welcome to the show. This is the Indic paradigm. We look at Indic culture through the lens of modernity. You would have heard this saying from Shakespeare. What is in a name? What smells like rose will still smell the same way, no matter what you call it. But the guest of today's show will certainly have a bone to pick with Shakespeare. Welcome to the show, Nityanand.
Happy to be here. Namaste and happy Deepavali.
Happy Deepavali to you as well. Before we start this discussion, I want to lay some context, and because these are some common pitfalls, right? So in terms of examples, just so that people can kind of get a flavor of this discussion, could you tell some of the weirdest names and what they actually mean and the mistakes people make?
Well, it's an unending list, so where to start and where to end is a question.
Some of the favorites.
One of my favorites, which never gets old, is Shleshma.
Shleshma. Okay.
Yes. And I don't know what the name websites claim, but the word in Sanskrit means phlegm or mucus. So there you go. That's one of the favorites. And there are several others. Vandhya. Not Vandhya, but Vandhya. Yes, Vandhya. Vandhya means a woman who cannot bear a child. And why would you want to name your daughter Vandhya? Quite a few others. Mehan, not Mohan, Mehan.
Okay.
So in Sanskrit, Mehan means the water that you pass out, urine. And if you look these names up on the internet, Krishna, Shakti, combination of Krishna and Rama, whatever. So yeah, these are some of the favorites, but the list can go on.
So that's what I wanted to ask you. You wrote this book, Sunama. Can we show it for the viewers?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, it's a beautiful book on Sanskrit names. So, why did you write this book? When we think of it as a book in terms of what market it is trying to address, what gap did you actually see?
Sure. There are several books on names, Indic names. There's a book by Menaka Gandhi, the book of Hindu names. It's in two parts, I think, for girls and boys. The book has serious mistakes. So, for example, it lists Hulas as a Sanskrit name. Hulas is a Hindi word from Ullas. Several names have their meanings wrong. So Menaka Gandhi, due respect to her, she's not a scholar of Sanskrit. She's also written a book on Muslim names. And I believe there's one for Parsi names also, if I'm not mistaken. So you can't be a scholar of so many different languages. Well, there are some people, but Menaka Gandhi is not, due respect to her. So I saw this popular book, which has sold more than 50,000 copies for boys and girls both, but has serious mistakes. Then the internet. All sorts of name websites invent these names which are fashionable, or the yoga generation names, Shanaya, Akira, Amaira, Vivan, and so on. And the meanings are of course wrong. So when I started writing about names, these so-called Sanskrit names, or the names which are claimed to be Sanskrit names on the internet, I got a few requests that why don't you write a book of Sanskrit names. So I thought of it as a 3-part series. The first is, of course, Sunama, which is here, which is a small book. It's a book with around 3,500 names, and I included only rare names because a lot of parents want rare names for their children, names which are not so common.
Unique.
Yes. The second part, which is in the works, is Sunama Sarita. Sarita is a river, so a river of Sanskrit names, and that will have around 20,000 names. I'm in talks with the publisher, with 2 publishers for this, one for the English version, one for the Hindi version. And the ultimate goal is to have the Sunama Sagar, which will have 1 lakh names, 50,000 for boys, 50,000 for girls. And let's see if I live long enough, and if the circumstances are favorable, then maybe an online resource with 1 million Sanskrit names. That's the goal. And believe me, there would be so many names in our culture across all the Hindu works, Jain works, Buddhist works. There would be so many Sanskrit names. So it's not unimaginable. It can be done.
Isn't it surprising that there's an ocean of names? We're literally going to call it Sagar.
Sunama Sagar.
Sunama Sagar.
Yes.
And even that won't complete all the names, right?
No, it won't.
And still, people find ways to escape the ocean. Like,
Right.
it's quite.
Well, we live in the internet generation where WhatsApp forward carries more value and is more reliable than a PhD thesis. So who is to blame? It's not just limited to names, but I guess this applies to many other things also. People tend to trust a WhatsApp forward and not read up a PhD thesis or look up a dictionary. So, it means Krishna because my friend told me Krishna. It was on WhatsApp. I saw it on WhatsApp. So it must be true. And that belief, especially with names, it's quite damaging because you're giving a person an identity. Well, Shakespeare did say, what's in a name, a rose by any other name would smell all the same. However, in our culture, a name is the identity of a person. A name is somebody a person identifies with all his life, all her life. So if you mess up the name of an individual and you later realize that it was because some random name website cooked up a meaning or somebody claimed what is not true, then you feel cheated. A lot of parents feel cheated. I've consulted more than 1,000 parents for children names, and I've come across cases where people named their child based on an internet resource or some unreliable source, and then they later regretted that, why did we not look up a dictionary, right? So in our days, when I grew up, there used to be a dictionary in every home. Well, not every home, but all the people who wanted to learn English, there used to be an English dictionary at their place. And whenever I did not know a word, I would ask my parents. My parents would say, look up the dictionary. Make a habit of looking up the dictionary. And I also tell my children, look up the dictionary. So when it comes to English, we trust Oxford Dictionary or Cambridge Dictionary. When it comes to Sanskrit names, we trust a WhatsApp forward or a name website, which is probably run in Pakistan. There are quite a few run in Pakistan, and they they have these Sanskrit names, which, well, I think they all copy from each other, but still. So we don't look up a dictionary, and an Apte dictionary, a copy of the Apte dictionary costs just 350 or 450 rupees. That's it. That's all the time you need to spend. That's all the money you need to spend.
Just for the benefit of viewers, what are the authentic Shabda Koshas is what we call the dictionary, right?
Yes.
Which one should they refer to?
I personally recommend the Apte, Vamana Shivaram Apte's Sanskrit English dictionary, and it was also translated into Hindi, so it's a Sanskrit Hindi Shabda Kosha. After Apte, there is Barua, there is Monier Williams. For the traditional scholars or for people who are comfortable reading Sanskrit, there is the Amara Kosha, the Shabda Kalpadruma and Vachaspatyam, 2 very authentic sources on Sanskrit words and names. And there's a whole list of 80 or 90 koshas in Sanskrit, and still a lot of them are unpublished. But these are the main one I can think of. Monier Williams is quite good in terms of the number of words it covers. So although Monier Williams did plagiarize a lot of his content from, not plagiarize, but he just translated the entries in the St. Petersburg dictionary, the German Wörterbuch, which was authored by Bertling and Roth. So that original St. Petersburg dictionary, Sanskrit German, is quite vast in its coverage, and so is Monier Williams. Apte is quite reliable. So these are the main sources I recommend people. And then there are two books, the Sahasranama Stotra Sangra by Gita Press, and there's also a Shatanama Stotra Sangra. Between them, they have around 30,000 names across, I think, 22 or 24 Sahasranamas and I think 50 odd Shatanama Sutras.
This is basically Vishnu Sahasranama and Lalita Sahasranama.
Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama, Shiva Sahasranama, Surya Sahasranama, Radhika Sahasranama.
Each deity has a...
Yes. So around 22 or 23 different Sahasranamas in the Sahasranama Stotra Sangra.
Wow.
Yes.
It's a mountain of information.
That's right. So a friend of mine told me, he was from South. He told me that in our side there's a culture that if there's a daughter, then look up the Lalita Sahasranama. If there's a son, look up the Vishnu Sahasranama. And this is the method which can never go wrong.
Absolutely. I'm South Indian and I attest to that. At least till my generation.
Right.
But coming back to... So I want to ask you historically, what was the naming convention that was followed in Bharatvarsha? Like if a child is born in a family, like
Right.
500 years back, 300 years back, or 1,000 years back,
Right.
what would be the process? Who
Yes.
would be consulted? How would the name be chosen?
Yes. This process has also evolved over time. If we look at the Vedic names, we often see a patronym. For example, Gargi Vachak Navi, the Brahmavadini Rishika, as you say. Some people say Rishika is not the right word to use, but even Sayanacharya has used the word Rishika in his commentary on the Rig Veda. So Gargi is her name. That's also probably a patronym. And Vachaknu, daughter of Vachaknu, is Vachak Navi. So that's why Gargi Vachak Navi. So there would be a patronym and a first name. This was the culture in the Vedic times. And there was a practice of giving a secret name also. If we read one of the, I'm not sure if it's a Taittiriya Aranyaka or Brahmana, we know that the Guhya Nama or the secret name of Indra is Arjuna.
Wow.
So there used to be a practice of having multiple names. And there's a mantra in the Rig Veda where I think in the 10th mandala, where there's a mention of the fourth name being given. So Sayanacharya in his commentary explains that the four names are the Nakshatra Nama, the Guhya Nama, the Prakash Nama, and the Yajniya Nama. Nakshatra Nama is something which is based on the star under which somebody is born. So based on the nakshatra. For example, Arjuna's in the Mahabharata, Arjuna's nakshatra name is Phalguna, because he was born under the Uttara Phalguni nakshatra. Uttara Phalguni or Purva Phalguni. Similarly, somebody who's born under the Rohini nakshatra could be called Rohina. Somebody under the Chitra nakshatra could be called Chaitra, associated with Chitra, and so on. So this was a nakshatra nama based on the nakshatra. Then a Prakasha nama, which was the public name, and a Guhya nama, which was a secret name, a name known only to the parents or only to the near and dear ones.
It's like a nickname.
More like a code name or a secret name which people don't know, but the parents know. Right. You can think of it as a nickname now, but that was the sense, Guhya Nama. And then there was a name, Yajniya Nama, like Somayaji, based on achievements like somebody did a Somayaga, so it would be called Somayaji. We had Nilakanta Somayaji. So these were the four kinds of names as per Sayanacharya's commentary. And then we also had patronyms and matronyms. So Dasharathi and Kausalya. Rama Dasharathi. Rama is the name. Dasharathi is the patronym, son of Dasharatha. And Kausalya, so son of Kausalya. Over time, things evolved. By the time we see the Grihya Sutras, you find a whole set of do's and don'ts for naming. So the Grihya Sutras recommend that use 3 or 5 syllables for the name of a girl, use odd number of syllables, use an even number of syllables for the name of a boy. It should start with a sonant, have a semi-vowel sound, end in this kind of a vowel, should not be named after a river, and so on. So kind of elaborate rules. And then the Manusmriti, where it talks about the 4 kinds of names for Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Some of it is not followed today. And then we had the Upanamas, like Sharma, Varma, Gupta, Dasa for the 4 Varnas. Over time, with the Vaishnava Bhakti movement, the name Dasa, which was originally used for Shudras, came to be used for everybody. So Tulsi Dasa, Surya Dasa, and so on. And then these days, well, till the end of maybe the 19th century, or till the middle of the 20th century, most of these names were only the names of the favorite deity, which was not the case earlier. Earlier, it would be something like Gupta or Datta attached to the name of the deity. For example, look at the Gupta kings: Chandragupta, Samudragupta, and so on. Chandragupta means protected by the Chandra or moon. So Chandra is a deity, Gupta means protected. Similarly, Samudragupta, protected by the Samudra. Or Indragupta. Similarly, Indrota, protected by Indra. Indradatta, given by Indra. Vasavadatta, given by Indra. Also Devadatta, given by Deva, and so on. So Ramadatta, Ambikadatta, we had a great scholar named Ambikadatta Vyas, one of whose books is this book based on Katha Kusuma Saurabham. So Ambikadatta, Shivadatta, these names were like given by Shiva or protected by Shiva or Vardhana of Shiva, and so on. But then later we just have names like Shiva and Rama and Ambika, and not Ambikadatta or Vasavadatta, and so on. Just Vasavi would do for a girl. So this came, and then we had the Amit and Neha generation, where if you went to Delhi or northern regions of India, every third boy would be named Amit and every third girl would be named Neha.
So, or Rahul, Raj, yes. Sanjana.
Yeah, Rahul was probably after Shah Rukh Khan, boggled our senses. So with his idiotic movies, so we had everybody named Rahul or Anjali and so on.
But these names were still there.
Yes, Rahul was
authentic Sanskrit, even though they appear modern.
Yes.
Right? These are still authentic Sanskrit words.
Rahul was the name of Buddha's son, and Ashwaghosh in his Buddha Charita mentions this name and gives a nirukti also. Anjali, although Anjali is a masculine word in Sanskrit, although it is feminine in Hindi. So Anjali was still, it's okay, the gender is wrong, but at least the word is right. And Amit and Neha is a Hindi name. Sneha is Neha in Avadhi. Goswami Tulsidas has used it many times in the Manasa. So Neha means affection or love. And that is a masculine word in Avadhi, but then we consider it as a feminine name in Hindi. So Neha, which is Snehas. But so either the Tatsama forms or the Tadbha forms was still okay. And then I think starting the 2000s with the rise of the internet, then came these yoga names, which are Shanaya, Akira, Mehan, and so on.
Names like Puja, which would be authentic, became Poof. I mean,
yeah, wasn't that Kareena Kapoor in a movie?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, what I want to know is how do you, and you've spoken about this in the past, how do you suggest people, what are the best practices that people should follow in today's world, considering, all the modern situation that, all the problems that exist today? We know that information is obviously, the quantum is stupendous. How do you suggest parents should go about finding a good name for their child? And what are the things, more importantly, they should not do?
Okay, so let's start with what they should not do. They should not trust the internet. They should not trust random name websites. They should not trust hearsay. Like, okay, this person said it. No. Unless you find it in a reliable book. In a book from a reliable publisher. For example, the Apte Dictionary. Or the Monier-Williams Dictionary. Or the Amarakosha. Or the Vishnu Sahasranama publication from Gita Press. Or a reliable publisher. Unless you find it there, please do not take it for granted. That's number one. Number two, think about the qualities and the meanings. Don't go for the sound of the name. It sounds good. A lot of people say, okay, it sounds good. It's easy to pronounce. I think ease of pronunciation is overrated. We Indians can learn to pronounce Roland Garros. We can learn to pronounce Volkswagen, right? Blaupunkt. But we say Sharmishta is difficult. I find it hard to believe, right? Name all these Tag Heuer or all these how do you pronounce some of the French brands which even I can't pronounce well.
Chanel.
Yeah, Chanel or Givenchy. What's that?
Versace.
Yeah. So we can learn to pronounce them, but we can't learn to pronounce our own names. That's ridiculous. So ease of pronunciation is overrated, and in this regard, I find there's a rich culture of Sanskrit names in Bengal, and I find when I interact with Bengalis, they are like, it's okay if it's difficult to pronounce. That's fine. Yeah, even today. So Satyavrat, which is Shatyabrat, or Suvrat, Shubroto, they are fine with such names, which is good. Even though the pronunciation is the Bengali pronunciation, not the Sanskrit pronunciation, but that's okay. So ease of pronunciation is overrated. Internet sources are overrated. Hearsay is overrated. Look to authentic sources. Look up authentic sources like dictionaries. Or if you're looking online, then look up dictionaries on archive.org, not some name website. So that's something which I recommend. And think of the meanings of the name, not just how it sounds or the initial letters. If you want to go for two names like a nakshatra name and a prakash name, that's also fine. Consult an astrologer. And please, no numerology. Please, no numerology. Because everybody who comes to me with a request on numerology is talking about Chaldean or some other system which is based on the English spelling of the name. Now, how does that matter? English is not a phonetic language. So you're looking at an imperfect script and then looking at how the numbers assigned to the letters add up to a magic number. No. So I say I neither specialize in numerology, nor do I believe in it, especially if it's based on the English spelling of the name. So please, no numerology, unless you really want it. So those are some of the do's and don'ts I'd recommend.
So I'm trying to steelman, because there is one argument that a few people make, which is that in the past, there were certain names, and you also cited some examples, which are Sanskritized names, and certain names which are what you would call the Prakrit names, right?
Yes.
And when one of the key factors, even today and in the past, that people use to make to craft names or to choose names is how upwardly mobile in that society that name sounds.
Yes.
The coolness also comes from there.
Yes.
So a lot of people would move from Prakrit names to Sanskrit names because it would add a certain prestige.
That has happened in the last few generations. That's right.
Correct. So many people say that Sanskritization was happening, which was this prestige getting reflected. Now it is Anglification. So it's just the same process, but in a different language. What would be your argument?
Well, Sanskritization, but if you, at least there's a right, the name is correct and the meaning is correct. If you're talking about Anglification and you say, okay, Vivan, well, what does the word mean? Like, is there even, if you want to keep an English name, that's fine, but at least it should be an English word or a word in some language. Right. What is happening is khichdification. It is. We'll come to Krish if you want to. So Krish is actually a Sanskrit word.
Okay.
Yes. So it's what people think it's short of Krishna. But what's happening is inaccurate information. I have no problem if somebody wants to keep a Greek name or a Latin name, but at least it should be a Greek or Latin name. If somebody claims it's a Japanese name or a Sanskrit name and it's not, I have a problem with that. Well, everybody should have a problem with that because you're naming your child based on inaccurate information.
So your point is that it should be authentic in at least some system. It
right.
should not be gibberish or mean something completely negative.
Right. That's right.
That's a valid point. Coming to the crux of this discussion, which I call the Shanaya phenomenon. And what is your analysis of, why are people going for such names? What do you think is the underlying thinking behind this? Do you think this stems from an inferiority complex or something else?
It could be. People want to sound cool. People think that having a name like Ramadatta or a name like Sanmai sounds old-fashioned. We want to sound new-fashioned. We want to be modern, so we want to keep modern-sounding names. And in this quest for modernity, people are not looking up what the sources they should be looking up. So it's blind imitation of some hip culture, and probably that's the reason behind it. Why would you? In the olden days, people used to ask their elders for name suggestions. So the grandparent or the guru or the acharya, who would know what a word means and would give a name for a specific reason. But now with nuclear families, there's no traditional source to fall back on. So even for a puja, we now call a pandit who we don't know. Right? In the olden days, people would know how to do it in your house, or you would have a family purohit who would you call for every puja. But now you'd book a pandit online, and you'd call somebody who doesn't know things. So I think a combination of factors: nuclear families, internet with a lot of misinformation, and a quest for modernity, an empty quest for modernity, that we want to sound new fashion, we want to sound cool, we want to be modern in our outlook, and we want to give modern names. So I think that's the reason behind.
Names are supposed to reflect personalities and also some points of time in history. So for example, this was a very interesting thing I read. The name Swaraj or Swadesh, the average age of the people who have these names, 70 plus, reflects that they were born in that freedom movement, independent, kind of newly independent India.
Right.
And that name then declined in use.
Right.
Then you have other names like Raj, Rahul, Sanjana, which was common in the 90s. And now, so it kind of reflects the time period also, interestingly, that, and the current time seems to be the one where we have completely deviated. Like the previous generations, every decade saw some change.
Right.
But this is the time where we have completely gone away from our Indic roots.
Yes.
That's what I felt. What do you think about?
Yes, a lot of, especially a lot of well-educated people. Yeah. A lot of IIT and IIM graduates have done it. A lot of well-qualified medical doctors have done it. It's not the illiterate or poor people who have done it. Like if we look at our domestic helpers or our car drivers, their sons or daughters would still have nice Sanskrit names. But it's the well-educated class of people who have lost it.
I mean, probably education is not wisdom, is all I can say.